Hi, Natalie.
Hello, hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us on our very private Facebook group. And today we have Natalie LaRoche, and she is our expert on anything and everything mental health. So thank you, Natalie, for being here with us today. And Norma and I have a few questions for you if you're up for the challenge.
You know me, I'm always up for a challenge and I'm very happy to be here. It's great to meet you, Norma. Excited about this whole thing you got going on here and to see where it goes. And Sarah, my friend from France, I was very honored that you asked me to come here and to do this and to write an article for you. So thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive right into it. How did you get interested in mental health? How did you fell into that world?
Well, we'll say I fell. It was accidental. It was a time in my life when I was a very young mom. I was single at the time, and I was a teen mom, married at 17, and by 20 getting divorced with two kids and in college. And so I was finishing my degree and doing internships, and I ended up at a place called Kent County Mental Health. And what I wanted to do, because at the time it was big, was adolescent pregnancy and parenting, as you can imagine why. Um, but they really didn't have kind of any openings for that because there wasn't enough funding. There was a need, but there wasn't enough funding, which is always the thing. So I ended up working in CES and CIS, which is Children Emergency Services and Children Intensive Services. So I did my internship doing that, and then I was like looking for jobs because, again, as a single mom, getting no child support or anything like that, this is all great, going to school and having an internship, but I needed a job because I had an apartment and a car and kids to take care of. So I looked for a job and I found this one at the Briggs School. Great. Everyone always said I should be a teacher. Let me check that out. Had no idea what I was getting myself into. It was actually a behavior school for a private behavior school that was run by, this organization, right? Kent County Mental Health Center. And these were children who were kicked out of school. Like they could no longer stay in school because they had such severe, behavior issues due to trauma and a lot of different things. And so I took the job. I was a teacher assistant. Um, it was one of the toughest jobs of my life. I was 20 years old, but I absolutely fell in love with it. These were like my favorite kids, like moving forward, going to public schools, and things like that. And a lot of people call them a lot of names and different things. And I just embraced them. Um, I think I just always have been a big empath. And I think, a lot of things in my own life of feeling maybe disconnected, maybe like I didn't completely belong. And that's for a lot of different reasons. One of them, I grew up in Coventry, Rhode Island, which is a very white community. And I remember not knowing at the time, but getting the question of, what are you? And I was like, what? I'm a girl. No, but what are you? I don't understand what you're asking me. Because and this was a good friend of mine. We were in elementary school, and in his mind, we were black or white. And I mean, in the whole town of Coventry, you're probably talking there was maybe one black person, and by the time I got to high school, maybe two or three. So he really didn't know, like, I don't know what you are. Um, and fast forward now, we got this whole DEI stuff, right? That was not a thing back then. So again, I think I just fell into something that was perfectly fit for me. It takes a lot of people say special, which I'm special for sure, Sarah.
You
But it
are.
takes it takes a special kind to be able to work with this population, right? Because they are very
Yes.
difficult. And so, I learned a lot. I've been in the field ever since. I've done a lot of different things. There's points in times where I got burnt out and I kind of was like, oh, let me try real estate or let me try taxes or let me try account, whatever. But I was always drawn back to the field, and I've worked in a lot of different areas across ages, lifespans, and things like that, which we can talk about. But I stayed in the field, and it was definitely not for the money because that was a struggle too.
Yeah,
I mean, it
again,
seems like this, it just kept pulling you back to the mental health, and it's like
Literally, sometimes I think
that's
it
where
was
you belong.
the kids
Yeah.
physically pulling me. But
How
no,
how
yeah.
old were the kids?
So when I was at Briggs, they were elementary. I had like two steps of elementary before they went to like junior high and high school. So we had probably the youngest was, I think the youngest was 7 there that I had. And then, again, they went up to probably like 11, 12 years
Yeah.
old. And that was just that particular school.
yeah,
And that's a tough
Ugh.
age because you got to take into consideration the developmental issues and everything,
Yeah, we
the
had kids, a lot of kids
hormones and
living
things
with
like that.
grandparents, a lot of kids, in abusive situations, coming in out of foster, care homes and things like that, involved with the courts, even at those young
Yeah.
ages, very aggressive, we were a school, we were trying to teach them, they're, you know, they can't even sit still because they have so much going on. And that's what people don't understand. They're being defiant. Nowadays, like they throw the computer across the room. And I think I just always understood that there was, and this runs into my relationships. Um, I always see the good in everybody. Right. And I kind of push out the red flag type things.
Yeah.
So I think I just always saw them like at a deeper level, like their souls, and it was like they're human, like they're kids, my God, and people would be not nice and call them names and like, oh my God, that kid's such a punk, or they're a real jerk, or whatever. And I would listen to these kids' stories, and I actually used to get in trouble for this a lot back in the day. They would be like, you don't share your personal stuff, like you don't be friendly with them, like you got to have this like stoic, sterile relationship, and fast forward again, 20, 30 years later. And now DEI and sharing your stories and, being a little bit vulnerable with your population, right? To connect with them and build a rapport is a thing. So who
Yeah.
would have thunk it? Like all along, I was doing the right thing, which is why I always had a really strong, quick connection with whether it was my students, my patients, when I was behavior coaching, whatever it was. I think that's why. But when you were looking at the like psychological side, they were like, that's a no-no. That's not, there's no human contact, there's no human connection. Like we don't do that. And I think if nothing else, you know, hear this, people. It is the human connection, it is the belonging that people need and want, right? They need to feel like they belong, that they're not abnormal. Like we are all abnormal. We all have things about us that are weird, quirky, annoying, whatever. But we all still want to feel like we belong. We still want to feel like, we're supported, and that we're just accepted and hopefully loved, right? So I think, like I said, that was always my leg up. Like I would just sit and I would have conversations with them, and they would tell me, they would trust me, and they would tell me like what was really going on in their lives or what their story was. And this continued on when I was working in the hospital with adults, and again, people are like, that guy is the biggest you've ever met. And I'd say, do you know his story? Because if you knew what that child was going through last night, didn't eat dinner, maybe watched his mom get beat, um, you know, could have literally watched his sister be molested, how would you come to school? Would you be distracted? Would you be disgruntled? Would you maybe throw a computer across the room? Because here I am telling you, do your work, do your work, follow these rules. And you're like going out of your mind thinking, all these things, being anxious about going home because you don't want to deal with this stuff. You're scared. And even as adults, we can go on and on about this, but this is what people need to understand. It's, I love that old Indian proverb, right? Don't judge your neighbor until you've walked a mile in their moccasins, right? You don't know what someone's thinking. You don't know what somebody's feeling. You don't know what they're going through, and some people take advantage of that. Yeah. But I want to say 9 times out of 10, like there's always a reason for behavior, always, no matter what it is, good, bad, or ugly, you know. So that's just
Even
important for
in
people to
our
know.
everyday life, you know, you never know what the person that's walking in front of you, what they're going through, or,
Mhm.
you know, the person that cuts you off, you know,
Exactly.
it's,
And trust me, I used to be, especially in my younger years, a very reactive person. That Sarah could probably attest in our groups of like my other personality, but very, aggressive, assertive, yelling, swearing, road rage type things, like, or if somebody said something to me or made me feel offended, like I wasn't gonna, be docile and, calm and quiet about it, right? Because I also had trauma and things that happened to me that forced me to be tough, right, and forced me to stick up for myself and to protect myself. And I didn't understand until being in the field for so long, and actually even doing a lot of self reflection, and reading a lot of self-help books, and like realizing, like, why do I keep getting in these relationships? Like, why does this stuff keep happening to me? And it's because you have your own stuff that you're not dealing with. I'm in a really incredible, speaking of self-care, I'm in a really incredible kind of course class right now. And it's called like the heart work, and it's kind of the gist of it is like to fix your heart so that you can get into a relationship, like get married or whatever. Sarah, I've been single forever, but it's really, it's just across the board, like heal your heart, because you act and react and behave in ways with your husband, with your kids, with your work, with your whatever, based on your heart trauma, right? And how you just take something in. Like, so if you think of neuro linguistics programming, which I'm a coach practitioner for that, um, we experience things, and what we experience, right? So what we kind of see and absorb and take in ends up becoming what we feel, right? What we think and what we feel. And then based on what we think, which makes us feel a certain way, we put that back out there, whether it's a defense mechanism or it's, a people pleaser, or whatever it is that you do to accommodate, to make yourself feel better, to make yourself feel safe, or accepted,
Yeah.
if that makes
that
sense.
leads, yeah, that leads me to a question with NLP. And how do you integrate NLP with your mental health patients? And what are the
So,
benefits of?
like I said, I mean, there's a lot more to it, but the basic gist of it is, um, just kind of, it's hard to explain because it's like you just kind of use that technique to kind of bring out and evoke awareness in them of like kind of
Mhm.
things that they're thinking. Like, so if they bring up a certain situation and they're maybe angry about something and talking about it, and you kind of ask those motivational interviewing questions, right? Do those deeper dives and ask them like, but why do you feel like that? I think we did this, Sarah, in one of the things, and I did it sort of to annoy people, to let them know there's like this like 7-layer dive, I think it was, right? And
Yeah.
you ask the person the same question over and over and over again.
7 times.
When I first did it, I was like, you just asked me that. Why are you asking me that again? But what it does is it makes you think about it and go, well, I do it because I don't like it. Okay, but why don't you like it? Well, I don't like it because it's annoying. Okay, well, why is it annoying? Well, I don't know. Well, it's annoying because my brother used to, do that to me. Oh, okay. Well, why did he used to do that to you? Well, I don't know, because he's a jerk. But why do you think he did that to you? I don't know, maybe because, oh, he would always do it to me when my dad came home. And he was close to my mom and I was close to my dad. So, and it just kind of gets you to think like why you are acting, thinking, or feeling the way that you are.
Yeah,
So
you're
again,
peeling
there's a
back
lot
the
of different
layers, right?
layers, and it's just understanding your behavior. Like I said, your
Yeah.
behavior, everyone's behavior is always based on something. So I also have a master's in applied behavior analysis. So that is like the ABCs of behavior. So you have an anecdote, right? What happened, right? What was the thing, the event, or whatever that happened, and then the behavior that followed. And then what's the consequence that keeps reinforcing that behavior? So if you think about something in your life, right? And you're like, damn it, like I know I do this every time, but yet, even though I know I do it, I still do it because it's intrinsic and it's automatic, right? It's like that caveman brain that's coming in and protecting you. It's telling you when you hear this or see this, this is what you're going to do because that's going to, stop whatever's going on. And then the reinforcement might be that parent that, coddles or, whatever the consequence is, whether it's positive or negative, it reinforces that behavior. And those are our like brain trees, right? So our brain trees, it's like a little skinny, wimpy little branch, but over all these years, right, we keep doing the same thing and the same thing. It becomes a very strong, thick branch you can swing on now. It's not going to break. And then to undo that is really hard, right? That's when it becomes just an automatic, it's not even, it's beyond a habit. It is just an automatic response, right? So that's kind of what NLP kind of, it's like there's CBT, right, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, which is just another approach. This is just another approach to use and utilize to kind of help people through their stuff, right? And I'm surprised that they actually call it like a NLP coaching practitioner, because Sarah, um, coaching is much different than counseling, right? Counseling always looks back and tries to figure out the past and deal with the
Yeah.
trauma, where coaching is like, nope, the here, the now, moving forward. What are we going to do? So that was a little surprising to me that they use NLP coach practitioner um as a
I
as a
might I might have an answer to that, and that has nothing to do with anything. It's just that coach is very a la mode. It's trendy right now, so everybody wants to be a coach. And when you
Mhm.
hear the word coach, it's not um it gives you the feeling that it's not going to hurt as much. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. It does. Yeah. And I think so that's the difference though. So if we're going to talk about this, right? That's the difference is if, say, Sarah, you get into coaching, right? You sign up and, I'm your NLP practitioner and we're talking about stuff, but we're in the moment, we're talking about right here, right now. We're not going to talk about the past. We're not going to like, things might come up where, again, you're like, well, but why do you think you act like that and stuff? And you might just kind of scrape the surface level and go, oh, okay, now I get it. So whenever that happens, kind of brings me back there. And so we're going to move forward. Um, but when you're working with somebody as a coach and you see that they have a lot of trauma, right? And that they're stuck and that they kind of keep going back and they really need to do that,
A
heart
little bit
healing or
deeper than they
that
go.
work, then you need to refer them. You need to refer them and say, I suggest that you seek out a therapist, somebody that can really help you, and I know I've told you about this before, Sarah. I worked for a medical telehealth company part-time when I was finishing my degree. And in my mind, I was like, how am I going to help these people? I have done behavior mental health all my life, right? And this is a medical telehealth company. These are people who are like, Norma, you got on the call with me today and you literally like last week had a double mastectomy, right? Somebody else gets on with me and tells me they were just diagnosed with cancer or their wife is dying of cancer or something, right? Somebody else is like, I have diabetes and I gotta decide whether I'm gonna like cut my leg off or not. And I'm like, I was terrified. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna help these people, but I need a job and I need to go to school and I'm gonna figure it out. So the program was set up. It was only 8 weeks, which was another thing that blew my mind. I was like, what? People are dying and we're gonna like in 8 weeks, we're gonna help them and then say, be gone. Um, and they had a therapist and a behavior coach. So I was the behavior coach. And so I say all this to say sometimes working with both is what is incredible, because it accelerates the whole process and you have both sides of it. So it's like, okay, if you're getting stuck here, we can deal with the past and you know, some of the things that you need to kind of work on, but also while focusing on, you know, the present and looking forward to the future, where if you have one without the other, you might be looking too far ahead, and this one you might, you know, be staying stuck in the past. So we've talked about this. I would love to start a company like the one that I worked for, with therapists and coaches, and just have like a big platform, you know, for people, because there's clearly a very huge need for even more now after COVID, mental health people in the field to just deal with everyone who is suffering.
I like that idea.
Maybe it's something we
And
can talk about.
yes, but like you said, it's always about funding, right?
But where there's a will, there's a way.